Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon all of us here. And we're back on our February Divaan, and it's a snowy day here. And today our topic will be death, basically. Death. We're going to be sharing some poetry, and then we're going to be in our collective talking about the topic, and we'll be sharing some pennings on that as well. So I'll pass it over basically to you, Mehtab or Louisa, if you guys like to say something on that.
I just need a minute and I can share what I had thought, but talk about something in the meanwhile, please.
Okay, so I would start with a question, but I'm going to worse it. Death is multi-layered. It can be death of a loved one, death of a relationship, death of self, but is death an end in itself? I'm just going to take 1 minute for reflection, and I just have a little thing to do. I'll start, inshallah, with your permission.
Yeah. How about we spontaneously share right now as to what death would mean as per Mehtab's question. And if you'd like to repeat it one more time.
Death is multi-layered. It can be a death of a loved one, death of a relationship, or death of self. But is death an end in itself?
Death is part of a journey of traversing into infinite reality. And to me, it would probably mean death to one stage of the cycle, but a renewal or a rebirth, in subsequent or another stage. And it's a constant sort of, with dying, there's a constant theme of rebirth. And on a personal note, like even last year before my birthday, like literally the day before, that's when I slipped down the stairs, which is very not like me, but I did slip, and I literally was like, down in the cellar mode for like, I don't know, a couple of months, 4 months or so. So that theme of dying and rebirth, it's a reminder again this year, you're sick once again. So for birth to take place, one must die.
this is also interesting. I forgot to share that on the passing of our beloved Bunny, our sage Bunny Rumi, there's just this weird thing happened. The next day, my mom said that I have I have a gift for you. And I was like, what's the gift? So my neighbor's cat gave birth to a baby cat. And we named her Dodo. And her name, one eye is green and the other is blue. So I was like, we have this bunny. I mean, it's your bunny, but we all love him so much. And we have
Right.
just the next, we have another. Yeah, I just got a cat. So
Wow.
that's, this connection is so beautiful. And at the same time, we are discussing deaths today. And we also have our beloved's birthday too.
Hmm.
So I think this birth and death is just just a hazy line that once you traverse it, it is an opening, and it is an opening, and it's a birth of something in a newer form. Because if we see that we are all born from Ruhul Wahid, and we are all inhabiting it, so if I think it's just a change in form, but it's just comes with a newer form and a newer love, a newer meaning, and in a newer light. Inshallah.
Hmm.
Louisa, you've got a poem.
Sorry.
You've got a poem?
Well, actually, yes. I wanted to read something, but this is not maybe for penning yet. And now, since Alicia posed the question, I don't know if people have also something to say, but maybe this can act as fuel for more thought in case people still wanted to share. I just wanted to, in the beginning, share something from this beautiful book. Let's see if I can get it in this picture. It's moving because I have Hafiz here moving under the book. So it's The Book of Love by Muhammad ibn Yahya al-Ninawi. And I got it as a gift by Alicia when she came. And this is a couplet from his book. Life is a journey that begins with love, which carries us through all barriers, shines through all darkness, and jumps all hurdles to arrive at its destination. So even though we're talking about death today, I mean, they're interconnected, like you said. Life is a journey that begins with love, which carries us through all barriers, shines through all darkness, and jumps all hurdles to arrive at its destination. So what's the destination? Is that death? Or what's the destination? And please share if you do, still some thoughts on death, and then maybe we can pen some on a few poems after that.
What comes to your heart in terms of what is the destination? We're going to go around. Madiha? You have like 2 seconds.
Hello.
Hey, salams.
Salam. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yesterday I was reflecting again on the two poems, the one by Bulleh Shah and then the other text by Thunder Perfect Mind, and how like they both say I am the first and the last. And it just makes me think of a circle. It's not linear, it's a circle. So I think the final destination is also, or the destination is also the beginning. That's what comes to me.
Hey.
I feel like death is like a release in a void. Like it's a release of energy, but then it's a mystery, like it's formlessness. And then I don't know what happens after, but it's like a release in a void. Something disappears, but then there's also a release of energy. And maybe that's rebirth, but I don't know what that would look like. That's energy, like it's formlessness. I guess it's back to our original form, but I wouldn't know that. Just, yeah, the release.
You know, regarding original form, before we have Noor say something, the Zen Buddhists, they have many ways of tapping into states of consciousness through meditation. So if I'm not mistaken, the Mahayani tradition, they have this practice of like riddles through cones. And there was one question that I heard, and it was like, what did you look like before you were born? Yeah. So these are matters that we don't know, but it just, you know, brings you into like such, I mean, there's so much that we don't know, right? There's the finite and the infinite that just comes like through some of these wisdom techniques. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. Noor.
I just died like 10 minutes before this thing happened, before getting on here. So I can't really talk because I'm just going to scream or cry. And so you guys said destination. I don't know.
Yeah, there may be multiple deaths during a lifetime, I suppose. Cyclical death and rebirth.
Can I ask a question about the question? Do you feel like death is something you can tap into? Like tap into death?
I think it comes unannounced, just like the angel of death. He doesn't need permission, does he? He comes bil'amr, with the command of the Most High. So I think in the realm of the dunya, it shouldn't come announced. Maybe you feel it's coming, but in whatever way or form, through the path that we are to experience greater or lesser degrees of death, akin to the idea of fana, that only like someone else's death is not a death to someone else. So it's so like subjective as to, you know, what determines actual death, but that's not our business. But in terms of what you mentioned in regards to, you said like, do you know when death is coming? Is that what you said? Or can you tap into it? You said, can you tap into it? I guess, yeah, everyone may have their own sort of opinion on that. we have with us Sadia, and then we have, I believe that's Sumaya and Zainab as well. So if you all are comfortable, then please share anything that you're feeling inspired to in regards to death. Is death an end to itself? Okay, so what I basically felt a bit earlier was death is an end to duality, to all duality. And in terms of the destination, it's like destination is love. And since we haven't arrived yet, then we're not home. And those who have arrived at love, then destination is love. I don't see any other destination but love. But I also see the end to duality. So here we have Sumaya, I believe. I think death is a midway between a new beginning and an ending that had to end for the arrival of that new beginning. Okay.
And I wonder, can we talk about death without defining life in that case? What is life? And are we alive? Because that's something that's talked about a lot in the mystical traditions, what it means to actually live. Because sure, you can have a body and you can like walk around and do things and apparently live, but what does it mean to live? And do you need to know that to know what it means to die? Because like Noor said, you can die while apparently being alive. So what are these things? Is it biological? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? What are these terms that we use? Death is a door of eternity, says someone in the chat.
That's Sadia. Thank you,
Sadia,
Sadia.
okay.
I'm sorry I sent it in the group.
No,
Just say
it's not at all, because it's we got like a party going on now.
yeah, for the invitation.
Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah.
Salam Amna. Welcome to the Divaan Ishq. There was a secret door apparently opening today on the 25th.
Yeah, basically. There's a lot of 25s here, by the way. We have
Yeah?
May, we have Noor, we have Madiha, we have Zainab's mom. I don't know about everyone else. We had Farah, who was born on the 23rd, which is technically 5. But yeah, that's just another sort of calculation we did a few years ago. But yeah, I have a lot of 25s around me. It's interesting.
Also, like death, yeah, I feel death has a lot of potential. With I took a course called Die Before You Die. I didn't end up doing the whole course, but many people spoke about how when a person is alive, there are limitations to the relationship you can have with them. But then when they die, it's like you can relive, everything is expanded in your heart. So you could heal so much and you can work through so many things that you weren't able to work out with the person when they were alive. And that makes me feel like death has so much potential. Like sickness is limiting, and then when the person dies, there's a release. There's always, and that joining, where you're right, it's an end of duality. You become one with the death, you're the only memory of the death of that thing that was alive. So you kind of merge with them, and you're the representation of that, of whatever was alive. So um it's interesting how to think about that when there's an individual or a animal or a loved one that dies, and then also these parts of us that we think we identify with, and then when they die, how that gives us more room to be alive. Sometimes when we identify with too many things, we are limiting. Identity is limiting. So the death, that ego death, makes room. Yeah, that's just potential.
Basically, it's a liberation from form, isn't it?
Form and concepts and other bondage, I suppose.
And other attachments as well. It's an end to all attachments, I guess.
But I still, go back to this die before you die concept that also May, you even mentioned it in those words now, because I think there's a lot of people who both in their quest for maybe attaining oneness with the divine or some other concepts of God that they have, they're thinking that death is kind of the time when you do that. And then there's also that kind of probably unconscious thought that you're going to live forever, which makes people postpone a lot of things in life and maybe also regret things they didn't do when time is getting close. And especially people who are sick suddenly start like living fearlessly when they know they have very little time left. So I think there are some like really big secrets and lessons probably in death and in facing death before you die, which I guess also, again, May, you ask, can we tap into death? I think we probably should try to tap into death more frequently than at least myself. Sometimes I live very carelessly as if I have unlimited amount of time. So what would we do differently if we actually lived like there's no tomorrow? And what kind of urgency does that bring to life? And what kind of like intensity to our actions and our dreams?
This is so powerful. Like in the morning, I was thinking that when they say that age is just a number, and we take it upon ourselves sometimes very hardly. So then I did just self chatter, but my main concern was the age and the number and the role that it plays. So age, if we the right answer was, how is, if with all this age, what have you done with all the age that you have spent? It's not about being old or being young or being a child, but in all the years that we have lived, what is the gift that we were able to revive in our heart? So if we die in this moment, will will we be fine with the death? Will we embrace death if we die right now? So using this proponent of the number or the age, that tells, then that age becomes important, that with all this time, what have we done? And are in any time that life is uncertain, death then means that reminder of that death will always bring us closer to doing something or thinking something better. So I don't know if that makes sense. My question sprang from age and number, but it was like if it doesn't matter, the only thing that matters is how well we did. And if death comes any moment, will we be happily embracing it, or will we not be?
I mean, I think just it's inevitable to really, when we actually deeply reflect, you know, sometimes our concept of death is just like this idea of physically dying, but it could, like every moment, you know, my inhale and exhale, it's one less, right? Every minute or every moment, it's one less, and that can never be brought back again. That moment, that this very moment, it can never be brought back. So we're constantly experiencing death if we're awake and aware enough to realize that, you know, death is just like literally lurking over us, right? And yeah, I mean, regardless if we tap in or not, it's happening right now. And it's one of the practices they say to in many mystical traditions or spiritual traditions, to remember death daily, to do tafakkur. There's even instances of the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon them, that they would literally lie in graves to remember, and they would do self-talk, reminding them about this reality that, you know, you're going to leave this world, or, you know, this is a fleeting place and whatnot. So yeah, I guess that awareness, that conscious awareness, should be part of our consciousness, to remember death, right? I had a little poem that I did on our Divaan, and I'd like to just share that. Every minute is 1 minute less. Every breath is life. A breath closer to death. A moment now in doing is a moment away from holding. Every step taken towards home is a step further away from no man's land.
Death as destination.
Exactly. And I'm sure, like, you know, everyone here has had their sort of taste of, you know, encountering death to whatever degree, you know. So maybe if we go around, we can ask everybody what was what's the memory that calls upon you when you think of death, when you lose someone, or when you've come face to face with death even. So how about we go around and see what we have here.
Why don't you start?
In terms of encountering death, I think the closest I had, which was it's quite deeply ingrained, was the loss of one of my friends. And she had gone into a coma, and she was sick for some time and whatnot. And I flew in after some time to see her, hoping that, you know, she's going to be there. And she, like, you know, so I had to basically come to the hospital knowing that she had passed away basically after I had landed. you know, and so there was no chance to see her in her living self. And but in terms of, you know, how literally you're so liberated after death, is there was no stopping. Like, just because she had passed away, we actually had a couple of projects that we were supposed to do, and I was like, oh my God, how's it going to happen now? She literally died on me. And you know, there was a lot of grief and pain and shock, but then, you know, life has its way of teaching. And what would stop me from continuing? So I was basically co-authoring this project with her in spirit. Why would I stop? Like, she's not, I mean, her spirit is alive. So it's just the death of a physical form, but no one really dies, right? So then what's the issue here? What's the issue? So the essence is ever living, and that's the reality.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I can share. It's a long time. I think it's been definitely more than 8 years. I was working at the hospital, and there was a patient who was do not resuscitate patient. So basically waiting for death. And he died during my shift. And my job was just to simply watch the heartbeat slow down. And I felt really helpless in that moment because I couldn't do anything except just to watch, just to witness this death happen. So yeah, I just watched the little, you know, ECG and the heartbeat slow down, slower until finally it was gone. And yeah, that was what came to me. And that was one physical death that was very strongly coming to me, and then the symbolic deaths that happen in every moment, and letting go of identities and things that I start to attach and then detach, and there's death in those moments as well.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
So I am just reminded of one experience in which, you know, in Pakistan on 16th December, there was a terrorist attack on APS, Army Public School. And, you know, so what happened was after that, the whole country was really afraid, and the schools were under threat as well, and the universities and all the institutions were under threat. So what happened was that we were, when this schools and universities open, I was in my university, and the way the guards were holding big guns and you have to just cross them. And then, when we were in the middle of crowd, and at that time there was this, we were scared that if we are together, probably the more together we are, the more in danger we are. That's kind of consciousness was there. And so what happened was, I had a debating competition, and I was preparing for it for a whole week, that I'm gonna kill it. That was me. And suddenly the alarm goes off in the university, and everyone was shouting and screaming that everyone just get down and lay on the floor. And I'm looking around, and I'm like thinking, I'm preparing for tomorrow. I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm not ready to die. Not today. That's what I was, and at that time, going in my head. And I'm looking at the guards and clerks, and they're saying, get down and get down. So anyways, the alarm just went off, and they said that this was just a training, that if anything happens, you're not supposed to move and you're just going to lay down. But the message was how crazy and how unready I was for the other day. And even when the alarm was ringing, I was like, oh no, I'm preparing for tomorrow. I just can't end it today. So that sort of uncertainty is just unbelievable. And I had just have one more incident of that, was that we had our guests at our place, and we were talking about the future of their children, that he's so strong, he should be a boxer, or he should be into fighting. And the next day, 2 days later, we hear the news that the plane just burst into flames, and that the family is no more. And we had to confirm so many times that, is it the same family, or is it the same family? But the day before, we were just discussing what the future should be, and then the next day they're not there. So that was a huge shock. But see, that's the uncertainty of that. But then, as Saida Alicia mentions, that we co-authored a book with her loved one, and that's what happened. Was the message came to their mother, that she dreamed that she's in Jannah, and the wife was into education a lot. So she said that she dreamed in Jannah that she's teaching even in the afterlife. So she was doing something she loved. So that, again, that connection and the spirit remains alive. And at the same time, in this life, there's nothing promised. So these are the two incidents that came to memory.
Do we have a poem that we can do a reflection on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Shall I start, Mehtab? Okay. So for those of you who are here the first time, we usually we read a poem and then we pen on the poem anything. It doesn't have to be related in a particular way, but just anything that comes to your mind, freely write down without any kind of rules. And today, obviously, the theme is death, so I'm going to read a penning by Maulana Rumi. Come on, sweetheart. Let's adore one another before there is no more of you and me. A mirror tells the truth. Look at your grim face. Brighten up and cast away your bitter smile. A generous friend gives life for a friend. Let's rise above this animalistic behavior and be kind to one another. Spite darkens friendships. Why not cast away malice from our hearts? Once you think of me dead and gone, you will make up with me, you will miss me, you may even adore me. Why be a worshipper of the dead? Think of me as a goner. Come and make up now. Since you'll come and throw kisses at my tombstone later, why not give them to me now? This is me, that same person. I may talk too much, but my heart is silence. What else can I do? I'm condemned to live this life.
So like Louisa said, let's do a penning on this. We give it about 10 minutes or so. Just reflect. And again, there's no rhyming scheme. There's nothing, you know, and sometimes we are fearful of actually writing anything. So come face to face with your emotion and write. And even if you don't choose to share it, by all means, don't share it. And yeah, so let's write now. We'll reflect. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Nasreen. Nice to have you here.
Walaikum salam. Happy birthday. Beautiful day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate
I will
it.
not stay.
Virtual birthday party.
Yeah.
I
It
will not
is.
stay long because there is a Sheikh Hassan van Dijk, also deputy of Sheikh Nazim, is coming to Holland. So I will go to his happenings, his event.
Oh, nice. Gonna party it out. That's good.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
good.
inshallah.
So yeah, we were just reflecting on a poem that was read by Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. A fan of Jalaluddin Rumi, not Jalaluddin herself. Not there yet. So what's it called? So what we're doing now is as part of our Divan's exercise is that we reflect on the poem and just write anything that's coming into our hearts regarding the poem. And maybe Louisa, you want to paste it into the chat so those who may want to reflect back on it, and then we'll give a couple of minutes to write, and those who wish to share, we're going to share.
I apparently accidentally sent it to only Sadia, but I will send it to everyone. It was nothing personal, Sadia.
That's why I said you're not Rumi.
Yeah, clearly. There we go.
Anybody would like to share? Who's ready to share?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Yeah. I wrote something. It's very tiny, but the background behind it was something I wasn't able to put into words readily because it was something that was it's something that I was currently working on when I identified it, which was the fear of losing someone to death. And I don't know what happened like around a month ago. There are so many people we know who lost someone extremely near and dear to them. And when that was happening, and because it's so strange, it was all happening at the same time with multiple different people that I know that aren't even related to each other. It started this like anxiety in me of, okay, you know, and you immediately start thinking about your family, you think about your parents, they're getting old, you think about other people. And for me, I haven't had a certain experience with grief yet, alhamdulillah. So the fear of losing someone to death is even more greater because I have not yet lost someone that close to me, alhamdulillah. And there were always people that we weren't very familiar with, even if they were family, like extended family. Alhamdulillah, I didn't experience it, but as a result of that, I developed a lot of fear. So, and that affected me mentally, like to a great degree. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't make sense of it. That I didn't even know this fear existed in me. So it was so strange that in the topic that we're discussing today, we talk about death and all the different aspects of death. And it got me thinking. And when I read the piece by Maulana Rumi, the only thing I could write was a very short, almost answer to the fear that I was experiencing. So I'll read it out now. We have got to live in love, show up for each other in love, forgive in love. Nothing matters a few years from now, all our disagreements, all of the shikwa from each other, nothing matters. From all the uncertainties of life, there's only one thing that is certain, that we will leave. So hold on to that certainty and live in love. What I realized when I was writing this as an answer to the question that I was asking myself earlier was a way to deal with that fear, because I think it wasn't just the fear of losing someone close to you, but also the fear of regret. Like, have I been fair with this person in my life? Have I treated them with love and kindness? Have I given them my time? And sometimes we let so many things in life come in the middle of you and the people you love, and their complaints, and there's things we wish didn't happen, and it leaves things feeling bitter. But to remember that one day death is something that's certain to us all, and learning to be nicer to each other, more forgiving, like truly not just tolerating, but truly forgiving and giving love for the sake of it. Because at the end of the day, if that's something that matters to you, you're going to think of that when you lose a person or when you are about to go. So, yeah, just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Yeah, you just reminded me, you know, like even, you know, the idea of maybe losing somebody and they're not as close to you, but there is a connection. And then reflecting on maybe not just really expressing to them how you appreciate them or love them, and just express to them, because once you lose them, you can't really do that. I mean, at least in the 3D realm that we're in, that's just, the door has shut for that. And of course, energetically and all that, but that's, you know, it's that's a different story. But how many of us really express to those within our sphere, our life, how much we appreciate them, because you know what, the next moment or tomorrow we may not have them around. So it's really working with the throat and heart chakra as well, when it comes to expressing and being present.
Does someone else want to share something? Madi has sent something on the chat. I could read it out loud. Beloved, I grieve your death on the day of your birth, for death and birth are one. In each moment that is alive, there is a death taking place. To be alive is to face death with courage. We die so we can live. How grateful I am to be alive with you. Mm.
Mehtab, would you like to share something?
This life, I love you. The next life, too. This life is a gift. In the next, please save me, will you? So I again choose you. In my last breath, you read to me Allah. My last breath, who? You prepare for me meal. I clean the dishes for you. You write the song, I'll sing it for you. I'm not ready to die till you give me your smile. With nothing to give, I give my heart to you. I kept it safe. It has the naqsh of you.
I don't think we're going to have Noor basically say anything, so we have basically two others here. And Louisa, why don't you shed some thing on what you've written?
Right. Delicate is this balance of life and death. There's hope of tomorrow. Will it keep me from living today? There's a sacrifice I make to secure what I do not control. Why don't I live like the birds or the flowers on the fields, or like the babe in my arms, always trusting, relying on divine provision? This fear of death is what keeps me from living. What would it take to realize my life as utterly worthless? To dare live like I'm not afraid of life and not afraid of releasing this garment into the hands of my maker. So many beautiful things are said about death, yet I know nothing about it. Why should I then not trust that just as I fall asleep and wake up every night and every morning, life will take me and gently usher me into the sweet lap of death to rest? Does Sumaya want to share something, or prefer to not? That's also fine. Or do you want to share something, Alicia?
Sure. Attach to detach. How long do we play this game? Heart and home through love alone. Heartbreak to remember we haven't arrived. Death indeed will bring this play to an end. What about now? Those from the past, al-sabiqun, have left without notice or a sigh. A silence, a void. All I feel is presence. This connection to eternal through attributes. Form has left us, a great longing. We are not home, as pain still persists. Someone dies, a new babe is born. This endless cycle, death and rebirth. We whirl to remember this shroud, my final dress. The turbe upon this head, my tombstone. O dervish, O denizen, death awaits us all. Why then do we forget? Why then do we forget this reality which unites all creation, death? A doorway into eternity. The journey continues until love takes us into eternal presence. When I am home, no separation, duality shall halt. This destination of love is home to my soul. Urs, we celebrate when soul unites in eternity. Reminds me of the practice in the Sufi way where the death or the Urs of the saint or the beloved of God is basically seen as a celebration because, you know, the soul has finally left the impermanence of the body and it is brought back to source and unity, and hence, you know, Shabe Arus, the wedding night. So the tradition is always a reminder that it's equally the same, death and life, and separation and unity.
And also they say that when the saints or the beloveds or friends of Allah pass away, their soul and the power that they have gets even more stronger. It's like a shield uncouth out of its cover. So because there are no physical limitations. So something that the friends of Allah just look up to for more power to help the people, to help their disciples. Noor, Sumaya. I'm not sure.
Mm.
Um, I didn't I was making breakfast, so I didn't really get to write. I just was here to listen. But while I was making one of the pancakes, I decided to shape it as a heart. And it reminded me of this quote I was inserting in something yesterday from the Prophet ﷺ, where he said the difference between a person who remembers God and doesn't is the difference between someone who is alive and someone who's dead. And uh and yeah, so when I was making this heart pancake, it was reminding me of how I think personally for me, I fully felt like I started living or was alive when when I was more in tune with my heart, and it felt like the heart was what kept me alive, or the life of your heart when it's not dead. That's when you're truly living, or at least that's what I've experienced. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and the heart can feel dead, although everything outside, or so to say, like all the environmental and external factors seem to be just perfect. You can have a very dead heart. And I was also reflecting how oh, Amina wants to see the pancake.
I'll send a picture after they're done.
Never mind.
Indeed, Madiha. Be swallowed by death. You'll meet its fate very soon. I'm just trying to articulate something before we close off, because we're coming to our, our end here, and we want to respect the timings. And that is that when we meet anyone, and when we have a connection to, I guess, everything living, if we go beyond the form, and I know we all know this, but technically beyond the form, whether it's nature, a tree, an animal, a friend, a loved one, whatnot, you are actually, in essence, connected to these eternal attributes, these divine attributes, which are active in that form. Some have less, some have more, but everybody has the divine attributes within them. And the reason why we actually fall in love with people and like them, adore them, appreciate their company and whatnot, is because of these eternal attributes that we're actually falling in love with. And then it's like, when there's a death, it's like you think you're in love with the form. Yes, you are, but you're forced to realize that beyond this form, it's just essence. And those that what we experienced, that never ends. And so, you know, like the show is over. You're like, oh my God, like form is gone. Is that it? How can that be? And so, I mean, I think there comes a realization that it was actually essence that you were in definitely, you know, connection with, and the form is missed. The form is what we are also attached to, but the form is finite and it has an end. And like we said earlier, there's so many new forms and whatnot, but technically speaking, the death to form becomes a gateway into realizing the eternal potential within everyone. And yeah, like I said, I'm not sure how to articulate this, but
Can you repeat? Death is the gateway to?
yeah, good question. Death is the gateway to this realization of essence being eternal, and you can always be connected to the essence, and there's no limit to that. And I don't know, like I can't really seem to articulate what I'm feeling, but able to express basically. But we're technically experiencing the eternal, right? The beauty that we experience through the living, the sacredness of all life. It's the actual eternal. We're experiencing God through people and through living all things that are sacred. Everything is sacred because the all living is manifest in the various attributes through all creation. So that's technically what it is, really.
I have a poem I'd like to share. It's by Maulana Rumi. It says, Ghazal, on the day of my death. Okay. On the day of my death, when my coffin is going by, don't imagine that I have any pain about leaving this world. Don't weep for me and don't say how terrible, what a pity. For you will fall into error of being deceived by the devil, and that would really be a pity. When you see my funeral, don't say parting and separation, since for me, that is the time for union and meeting. And when you entrust me to the grave, don't say goodbye, farewell, for the gate is only a curtain for hiding the gathering of souls in paradise. When you see the going down, notice the coming up. Why should there be any loss because of the setting of the sun and the moon? It seems like setting to you, but it is rising. The tomb seems like a prison, but it is the liberation of the soul. What seed ever went down into earth which didn't grow back up? So for you, why is there this doubt about the human seed? What bucket ever went down and didn't come out full? Why should there be any lamenting for the Joseph of the soul because of the well? When you have closed your mouth on this side, open it on that side, for your shouts of joy will be in the sky, beyond place and time.
Thank you, Mehtab. And I think that maybe is a good way to close today's session. And like always, we can continue penning on the group. Unless there's someone who wants to share something, some final words before we go. Before we go, sounded very dramatic. But who knows? We never know, so we should always meet and greet like that.
Well, maybe I should say something since it's like present time, present moment. And you just said that death is a doorway to essence. So I ask, what is my essence? Because I don't have nothing nice to say right now. I'm in cutthroat mode. I just really experienced something. Like literally before, I had a whole plan to talk about something in my head before I got on this thing. And it happened again, something else. And, you know, death, what is death? I mean, death to an experience, death to a cycle. I'm tired of myself and others. And so since it is death, and I personally don't have regrets with death, because just like right now, I really don't want to say anything. I always, at the end, I just make sure I have no regrets. I treat people in a way that I don't have any regrets. Somebody recently died, and the experiences I had with this person, I don't have any regrets, because a lot of us cry about how we are treated wrong, and you know, we're too nice and people take advantage of us. But when that person dies, you don't feel bad. You accept what it was. So I ask again, what is my essence? Because if I feel like I'm dying right now, who is here? And that's as nice as I got it.
Thank you for sharing, Noor. And we ask for healing for your heart and everyone's heart. One thing that came to mind is that, you know, Maulana Rumi says in one of his sayings that a 2-day journey takes 200 years without a guide. So when we have been brought to the guide or to the guides, then we need to trust the journey, because you're not solo, you're not wayfaring alone. And these guides are those who have sojourned to whatever degree, and depending on who they are, some have, you know, made it home and died before dying physically, through their trainings, through, you know, the way that they had to learn and so forth. So then therefore they become guides. And we know that we have a beautiful exemplary in Islamic history, Sayyidah Zainab, who met death 1,000,000 times. And it's about process. And one of her most famous sayings is, all I see is the beauty of God. And she literally met death on the battlefield of her beloveds, and not just a normal sort of death, you know, you're in the hospital or you're on a deathbed. And she met with, you know, she met death, which was gruesome. It was basically, she witnessed a massacre of her entire family. And how she processed that, that pain became purpose, and she became the savior of Islam. She took the flag. She was given the flag because it takes a woman to birth, right? Men can't birth, right? But we need them as well. And it's a woman who is birthing. So in the process of the rebirth, the feminine is a mandatory and essential component. And 1 minute. And so we know that we can take the experience of death to whatever it means for us. A debt to our love, a debt to emotion, a debt to attachment, a debt to a friendship, whatever that is, whatever way or form, that death comes to us. We need to trust the journey. We need to trust the guides, because if their job is to bring us home, you know, is to bring us home. So experience is absolutely necessary. So basically, there's an itinerary every moment as to what is going to happen, you know, to teach us the lessons. And just imagine, you know, this collective of these, you know, wise ones were like, yeah, we're going to let her go through this, and we're going to destroy her heart through this means, wreck her, ruin her, you know, whatever it is. But they are essentially bringing life to us every time there's an experience of death. And we need to just remember that we have to trust the journey, and we have to trust the guides, and Al-Hadi, the ultimate guide. But there's a greater plan in effect, so we can take the pain into purpose. So that's what I choose to do with the recent experience of, you know, witnessing a birth of a baby, right? Louisa's baby. And then I come home to experience death right in my face, my beloved bunny. But I choose to turn that pain and that grief into purpose, and I will allow, for as long as grief and these guests called emotions want to stay, I welcome them as a gracious host, and I will seat them on the finest interior. You know, if you watch, I don't know, like this was, even when I was a kid, there was a show that used to come on. It was called I Dream of Jeannie. Just look it up on YouTube, right? So basically, I mean, it's not like I was alive in, you know, when, I don't know, maybe I was, but like I remember it's like still considered old when you used to watch it. So it was just fun to watch, because it was like, you know, this genie woman lived in this sort of glass contain, not a container, but like I don't know, sort of dish, or it's not coming to me, but she lived there, and she had like, you know, the Arabian majlis, like the couches, silken. So imagine your heart, you've got all this, you know, nice sort of interior situation going on, the majlis with like the Persian rugs and the most finest, you know, sofas and seating. And then, you know, these emotions are coming in, and you've got to sit them on the finest interior. These are guests from God, and they're here to teach us, and they're intruders, and they're mean, and they're like ruffians, and they're also very kind and nice. Some stay, some leave, some want to hang out. So we have to be the gracious and kind host, because, you know, that's to be loved. So it sucks. I mean, I guess when you have to face something that's unseemingly or whatever, but there is no, it's how we choose to interpret it. You flip the narrative, and it's like, I should be happy. Like, I just faced this. Like, Allah has released me from this person, or this person or this thing does not serve me any longer. Therefore, a release has had to happen, and we're lamenting over the release because we're attached to that what is not best for us, because the divine plan is, this is not good for her journey going forward. So we're constantly have to remember that we are on our journey home, and it is a 2-day journey. So we have to trust, and we have to be ready. Like, why do you give your hand to the guide if you're not ready to be wrecked? You have to be ready to be wrecked. It's not a joke. So maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to pray that we all get wrecked.
You're, very positive, and it's very nice. But I think you don't even have to, see things in any perspective. That's going to take you regardless.
Okay.
And because sometimes it feels like, when you're in a really dark place, you just want to, throw something at someone who, wants to shed light on that, because it's so dark and it's so painful. So I'm not saying it's not possible to see things in a nice way when they happen, but sometimes also I think, because when you ask what is my essence if everything feels like crap right now, I think essence like repels everything that isn't home. So that is not your essence if that's how it feels. And you don't really have to worry about what essence is, because it's there. So just, sometimes I think even like that darkest pit of desperation will release us from also those concepts of guides or of love or of light or of the journey, whatever things we even can, hold on to, because things get so desperate. And Noor, I don't know like personally what you're going through, but I'm just talking from my own experiences. Like, we can get so sort of detached from the ground under our feet, so that only essence, I think, in the end remains. I'm not there yet, but like, probably, like Alicia said, things will come and they'll rob you so thoroughly that in the end, literally only essence remains. But not to say you can't see things from a, positive point of view, but I just wanted to bring in also that perspective.
I also have one thing to say. There's this really beautiful quote I saved it. It's like, no one will ever know the violence it took to become this gentle. And I shared it in my status, and my friend just messaged me and she said that these are the stages of the heart. And then she said, Professor Rafiq Akhtar says that whenever a powerful ruler enters a country or a city, it destroys it completely. And when it is cleansed, it enters. So it's very powerful.
So now, yes, we've come to a conclusion. Thank you for shedding that, with us, Louisa and Mehtab and everyone here. And yes, and we close off now with peace and blessings and gratitude. May this space serve as a healing, inshallah. Ameen. So until next time. Salams and peace.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for
Thank you.